Okay, I think we'll get started, and hopefully if anybody is joining us a little bit late, they can just pop in and catch up. So thanks for your patience while we're just waiting for people to join. So good morning, thank you very much for coming to this briefing event for our Leeds Digital Inclusion Fund. It's great to see you, and I hope this will be a really useful session and a good opportunity for you to learn a bit more about this fund, and also to have the chance to ask us any specific questions that you have regarding potential applications. So the Leeds Digital Fund is offering grants that are available to create and improve digital access for digitally excluded people. And what's really important when you're applying is that you explain to us how you have identified digitally excluded people, and that you tell us in your application how your proposal will respond to and meet the digital needs of these people that you have identified in your community. And for your proposals, to fund them, we're offering 1-year grants of £10,000, and these are fixed amounts and fixed project lengths. So your project will need to match up with this. The grants will fund the development and use of sustainable work. So we mean that support and the kind of support you can offer and your work needs to have the potential to continue beyond the project end date so that it's sustainable. And these grants are available to charitable groups working in varied settings and contexts and with different people, but there is a priority focus on work with adults and families. The fund is not prescriptive about what sort of activity it will fund, but you need to just demonstrate that as part of your standard everyday work, you can promote the benefits of being online and upskill people with essential digital skills. This might be by providing equipment or software or training. And a really important thing to note, and that your application needs to demonstrate, is that this funding needs to help your organisation build capacity and sustainability. And your application needs to demonstrate the potential longevity of your work. And this means that the grant money will be used to build upon things you are already doing every day and enhance them by integrating digital access and skills into your everyday offer. And it's really important that you note that grants won't be awarded to short-term time-limited projects. So, for example, a course of 10 skills building sessions on how to use the internet, because when the sessions are over, the people that have been attending might not have continued access to the computers or the internet, and so they wouldn't be able to apply that learning in the longer term. So it's really important that your proposals can help communities to be independently active online for the long term. So I hope that's a helpful overview of some of the important things of the fund. And now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the roles of Leeds Community Foundation and 100% Digital Leeds. So we're working collaboratively on this fund to combine expertise and hopefully maximise the support that is available to organisations to deliver successful projects. But we do have slightly different roles and can support you with slightly different aspects. So just want to clarify where, how and who you can get support from for different queries that might come up as part of your applications and projects. So Leeds Community Foundation are managing and overseeing the funding programme, and most importantly for you as applicants, we are responsible for the application process and the portal through which you submit your applications. So if when completing an application form you have a query such as you've not received an activation link to take you to the application form, or perhaps you're struggling to attach your governance documents to the application, or you might have a question about the kind of structure of your group and whether your group is eligible for funding. Or perhaps once you've submitted your application, you might realise you've omitted a small detail in the budget that you want to kind of clarify with us. Then anything to do with the process or the sort of functionality of the application form, then all those sorts of queries need to come to us at Leeds Community Foundation, and you can contact us on grants@leedscf, and Jess will just post our email contact in the chat now for you so that you have it to hand. We can also support you with queries about the application form questions. So for example, if you're not completely sure about what the question is asking or what information we're expecting you to provide in your answer, then we can certainly help with that and hopefully clarify by maybe explaining a bit more about the question or the sort of answers and information we would be anticipating to see. But what we can't do is offer support on creating an idea or drafting an application, and we can't advise whether the proposal is a strong fit for the fund. But Leeds Digital can offer some more support about shaping your proposal, and Amy will talk about this a bit later. Also within our roles is kind of communicating all the funding decisions. So if you have any queries about the timeline, anything like that, that needs to come to us, and all the communication about the fund will also come from us. And we're also responsible for monitoring of projects and helping you to evidence the impact that your projects have. So communication about reporting will come through Leeds Community Foundation as well. And we have some resources to help you think about showing the impact of your project, and we'll share those resources in the chat now as well. And for the successful projects, we will be on hand to support with end of grant reporting if that's needed. So 100% Digital Leeds have a supporting role as well, in that they will be able to offer guidance on shaping your ideas and writing your application. And Amy is going to talk about what this support looks like, and they can advise about project ideas, digital inclusion work, and also for those groups that are successful, there will be support after to ensure that projects are, integrated with digital inclusion work in the city. But also there will be support available for groups who maybe aren't successful this time around. So we're hoping to offer support so that you can build on your projects and link them up with other initiatives as well. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit about the differences in roles. So just a quick overview of the application process and timelines. So applications are currently open, and the deadline to apply is the 4th of July at midday, so at 12 noon. To apply, you'll need to access the full guidance and criteria which are on our website, and from there you'll also find the online application form that you need to submit. There are full instructions on the website, but if after reading these you do have any questions or issues, then please do get in touch with us on the email that's been posted in the chat. We hope that the application form is straightforward. The most important thing when completing your application is to be clear and simple, and make sure that you include the essential information and tell us exactly what you want to do and how it will improve digital access for the communities and the people that you are working with in Leeds. So please do use clear, plain words and avoid jargon as much as possible, so that we can easily understand what you want to do and how you will use your grant. So applications will be assessed throughout July once the fund has closed, and funding decisions will be made on the 11th of August. And then we hope to tell you really soon after this whether you were successful or unsuccessful, and you will definitely receive an email in the week beginning 22nd of August to let you know about the outcome. And then funded activity will begin in September 2022, although we do accept there'll be some flexibility there, and projects should be 1 year in length and finishing in roughly September to October 2023. So that's just a bit of an overview on the fund, and I'm going to hand over to Amy now to talk a bit more about the support from 100% Digital Leeds.
Thanks, Lydia. So yeah, my name's Amy Hearn and I'm one of the digital inclusion coordinators on the 100% Digital Leeds team, which is a small team working within Leeds City Council, working across the city to ensure that Leeds is a digital inclusive city. So working with partners from across all sectors to understand the digital inclusion needs of the people in the city and to help those partners to build their capacity for delivering digital inclusion support so that the right support is in the right place for the people that are most digitally excluded. Next slide, please, thank you. So for us, digital inclusion is social inclusion. So we see digital, or we recognise digital and the ability to use digital tools and services as an enabler for people to be able to do the things they need to do to have an easier time. We would like everybody in the city to have the same options as I have when it comes to using services and being connected to friends and family and having access to health and care and those kinds of things. That means that everybody should be able to understand the different ways that digital tools and services can benefit them and understand how engaging with digital and overcoming some of the barriers to digital might benefit them. It means people feeling confident in their ability to engage with digital and their ability for themselves to be a digital person, and also confidence in using digital tools and services and that those digital tools and services are safe and accessible. It means having access to the resources that they need to be able to physically get online. So the stuff, the kit, the connectivity, the Wi-Fi, and it means having access to the resources that they need to be able to upskill and have the skills needed to be able to do the things that they need to do. We just would like everybody to be able to make an informed choice when it comes to whether to use a digital service or not, based on what's right for them on the day, whatever their situation is. The same kind of freedom of choice that I have. That's what digital inclusion looks like for us. It's not about a person being able to do a number of things off a tick list or having a number of skills or anything like that. It's about people being able to do what they want to do and what will most benefit them. Next slide, please. So what good digital inclusion looks like for us is the right support in the community where it's most needed for those people that are most likely to be digitally excluded. Recognizing that a lot of people that are digitally excluded because they lack the motivation to overcome some of the barriers to digital inclusion. For a lot of people, it's an issue that causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. It's not something that they feel comfortable doing, that they necessarily want to engage with. But a lot of the time, that is because they don't recognise some of the benefits in the long term to them engaging with digital. Maybe because they don't know what digital options are out there. Maybe because they feel like the idea of engaging with digital is such a far reach for them that it's too big of a step to overcome to be able to realise some of those benefits. Digital inclusion isn't a short-term thing. It's not a one conversation or getting people to go on one course. For a lot of people, it's a long journey of encouragement, of support, of taking it slowly, of having positive conversations around digital, of encouraging people to understand some of the things they can do, some of the things that are going to be important to them, and take their first steps with digital. A lot of the time, that will be something really soft and really gentle, something that might not seem really important to us, but is going to allow people the space to feel able to take a first step with digital inclusion, even just holding a device, playing a game, listening to some music, something like that. Anything that encourages people and supports people to do more is helping them to build their digital skills and confidence and build up those transferable skills that are going to be useful to them when it comes to things like transactions and accessing services like health and the council services and those kinds of things. Those interventions are best designed and delivered by the organisations and partners that already work with and in those communities, that see them face to face all of the time, that know their names, that chat to them, that understand the things that are important to them and the things that are happening in their lives that might be a barrier. It's about putting the digital inclusion support in the places where people already go, trusted spaces where they feel comfortable, where they're used to going to get support from people that they know and trust, that they're comfortable having a conversation around this with, that know enough about the person that they can take a person-centered approach to offering that support, and a holistic approach, so that they can really encourage the digital engagement in a way that's enabling the things that the person in front of them wants to do and that is important to them. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, and the only people and partners that can really do that are those partners that are working with and in those communities. You know your people, you know what you see every day, you understand what the barriers are because you talk to people, you see it all the time. That's what we need you to tell us when it comes to how you know about the digital exclusion of the people that you work with. It's what you see on the ground, it's what you see every day. Because you're in that position, and because you're in the position to build those relationships, you're also in the position to build and develop the right digital inclusion support for the people that you work with, based on the stuff that they already engage with, your services that are already offered. And in that way, that's how you build an embedded and sustainable intervention. So building upon those interactions, the services that you already offer, a lot of which will make your life and their lives easier if they can engage with digital. So the initiatives that we're looking to fund, as Lydia said, not start and finish 10-week course type initiatives where at the end of that money, the support will stop. However, whatever your idea is, there is likely a way that we can think about how you could use that money in a way that will take a slightly more sustainable approach. So in the 10-week course idea, bringing in another organisation to run a 10-week course isn't building upon the existing relationships that you already have with the people that you work with. It's not utilising your assets, it's adding something on to your existing offer. But bringing in an organisation that's experienced in running digital classes and approaching that in a train the trainer point of view, using some of your staff and volunteers alongside those paid deliverers to help those staff and volunteers build their digital confidence and get the skills that they would need to be able to deliver that digital skills provision going forward, is a way that you could look at it, is approaching it in a slightly more sustainable way, or a way that's considering sustainability. Also, offering something that's time limited as a pilot project so that you can work out the right approach and the best fit for your organisation and your service users, and you can build up a body of evidence to demonstrate the impact with a view to understanding whether that is the right thing for you to do, and to build up a body of evidence that you could then use to approach other funders. That's a more sustainable approach. Also, something like having additional staff hours to be able to deliver and develop your digital inclusion offer, as long as those hours, because it is time limited, because the money will run out, as long as those hours are around development and sharing learning across your organisation and supporting others to embed and finding the right approach. Again, that's something that's time limited, but that is sustainability is covered going forward, because you're looking at what's next. We always want to be thinking about what the long-term outcomes are in terms of supporting digital inclusion for your organisation, and the what's next element. Recognizing, oh sorry, could you just go back again? Sorry. Recognizing that in terms of embedded as well, thinking about everyone in your organization. So everyone in your organization has a role to play in removing barriers to digital inclusion. That role will differ depending on their capacity to spend time with a person and deliver skills sessions or whatever. It might differ depending on their ability to identify whether somebody is likely to be digitally excluded or not. But everybody has some role in supporting the removal of those barriers. So we'd like to see the work spread across your whole organisation, even if it's just that everybody in the organisation can recognise the barriers to digital exclusion and signpost people into your skills provision or into your equipment loan scheme or whatever it might be. Everyone has got a role to play. We would like to see, again, everything that you're doing is building upon the stuff that you already do well, the assets that you already have. So with this money, we're looking at building your capacity. We envisage that a lot will be around, a lot of applications will be around getting equipment to be able to be used across services, bringing some digital inclusion into your across your service, so into your coffee mornings, into your stay and plays, into your family nature walks, whatever it might be. The more we can bring digital inclusion into digital opportunities into your provision, the more we can help people to build that digital skills and confidence, feel more able to access a more formal sort of learning offer later down the line. Okay, the next slide, please. So in terms of support from 100% Digital Leeds, we are here to be able to help you develop your bid idea. So if you're not sure, if you've got an idea and you're not sure whether it is a good fit or how it might be thought about in a slightly more sustainable way, whether it fits with our approach, then please contact us. We will be able to help you to advise on that and to also think a little bit around what that bid might look like. We've got lots of experience working with hundreds of different partners across the city to design and develop and deliver digital inclusion interventions. So we've got a really good idea of what works, what maybe might not work, what some of the pitfalls might be based on what other people have already done. So please speak to us. We've also got a really good idea of what other partners are doing across the city, what other partners are doing across the country, so that you can learn from their approaches, but also so that you can maybe tap into some of that capacity to be able to help your money go further. So as an example, there's the National Data Bank that's run by the Good Things Foundation. That's a big national organisation for any third sector, well, not even third sector, any organisation that's working with people that are digitally excluded because they can't afford 4G data or calls and texts. They can apply to that fund to, they can apply to that scheme to be able to get SIM cards and data for the people that they work with. So if that was something that you would consider costing into this bid, if you speak to us, we'd encourage you to tap into that existing resource so that you can use your £10,000 in a way that's really making best use out of it. We also, before or after or during, if you're successful, offer lots of other support to organisations generally. We offer digital inclusion awareness training, which would encourage you to take up for yourselves, but also for your wider teams. That's an opportunity for everyone in your organisation to understand what digital exclusion looks like, understand how they can recognise it in the people that they work with, and how they can start understanding what their role might be in supporting that digital, the digital inclusion of the people that they work with. We've got a number of different digital inclusion networks, which you'd all be welcome to join. Networks of organisations working with a similar community of interest around supporting digital inclusion, learning from each other, sharing learning, sharing resource, all those kinds of things. They're really useful to organisations, again, whether you're successful or not. And we can also advise on what else is happening in the city in terms of wider priorities and strategy, so that you can make sure that you can be clear on how the work that you're delivering is supporting some of those wider strategies, city strategies, NHS strategies, all of those kinds of things. We can advise on that to make sure that you're making sure that it ties in with the things that we need to support as a city. And then other things as well, not mentioned on here, but we've also really experienced in evidencing and impacting digital inclusion interventions. We can help on that as well. So if you would like any of that support, on our next slide, we've got some contact details. So my name's Amy Hearn, and that's my email address. I can't actually advise on this fund because I've been supporting the development of the fund. So if you would like advice and support from 100% Digital Leeds, please contact us using the contact form on our website, digitalinclusionleeds.com/contact. From there, if you give us a little bit of information about your proposal and the audience that you work with, the community of interest that you work with, etc., Jason will pick that up and pass that on to whichever of the digital inclusion coordinators will be best advised to support you. That's all from me. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Amy. And just to say that we have posted the link to that to the 100% Digital Leeds website in the chat to the contact page, so you can open that up now or save that somewhere for later. So it is there for you. Thank you very much. So now we have plenty of time for any questions that you might have. I appreciate that maybe a lot of you might have questions that you want to kind of follow up through that contact sheet to have some more specific advice. But if you do have any questions, then please feel free to ask or put them in the chat now. Was there anything in the chat, Jess, that we missed at all, or is it this one?
I think we managed to cover off the questions that came through as we were going through the slides, but we've just got a couple coming in now. So Ali, wondering about getting folks online and safety in regards to trolling, etc.
Do you want to take this one, Amy, or?
So we think it's really important to, while you're supporting people to get online, to also support them to be able to be safe online. Are you asking about what tools and resources might be there to support that, or whether that's a good fit for the fund? Yeah. Yeah, so there are lots of tools and resources, and I can pop some in the chat in a minute, but there are a couple of online platforms that are free to use that have got loads of really good information on. They're really good for upskilling your staff as well as the people that you're working with. But I would say first and foremost, your staff and volunteers, anybody that's talking to someone, if they understand the basics of e-safety, they'll be able to pass that on as they support people. So knowing how to set a strong password, knowing what phishing looks like, and so when somebody is supporting somebody to set up an email account, for example, they can pass on that safety as they go along. So the Barclays Digital Eagles have got a Digital Wings website that's got a really, really good module on e-safety and digital inclusion. It's got really good coverage. Also, the Good Things Foundation have got a platform called Learn My Way, which is a really good e-skills platform that covers all sorts of different things and has got a e-safety module as well. And then there's a couple of websites that are just dedicated for all things to do with e-safety. I would say as a starter for 10, go for one of the shorter modules because they really are snappy. They cover what you need to know in the first instance. There is also separate, and I'll pop these in a second, a separate website around particularly supporting children, young people and families as well. And we may, I'm trying to think, we might even have, you know what, I won't say that, I'll check. If we do have a course, a 1 day, like a 2-hour course thing on e-safety with Barclays, which we might have in our current programme, I'll pop the link there as well so that you can book on if that'd be of interest.
Thanks, Amy. And we've got a question from Samantha. Can this be used alongside other funding from other organisations?
And the answer is yes. The funding can part fund or fully fund things, but we would want to know really clearly in the application what the kind of how the money is allocated, so exactly what this money is being spent on, so that we can understand it in terms of any kind of broader budgets.
Thanks, Lydia. And from Ben, so we've mentioned about priorities, criteria and different factors. Ben's asking how priorities are scored.
So I wouldn't say there's a strict scoring system. All the things that Amy has mentioned about what makes a good digital inclusion kind of project we'll be looking at and assessing every project on merit. I wonder if you could maybe elaborate about the different kind of factors that you're thinking about.
Well, it was really, obviously, first thing is like the balance of needs and say sustainability. What's the weighting? Is it like a third? And then the other aspect is how it fits in with the city strategy and how it's embedded. Is that like a third?
Jason, did you have your hand up then?
Sort of. I'm not sure I'm going to fully answer your question, Vic, but I'll have a go. I think it's more about the story. So there isn't a sense from our perspective that we want to only fund, for example, organisations working with older people, or that, oh, we haven't got an older people's organisation, we need to get one in there. So there isn't that sort of criteria. We'd like to see a spread in terms of geography and in terms of demographics. But if the strongest applications are all that, then they will be the ones that get funded. And it's much more about what Amy was saying in terms of that story. So how is the work going to be embedded? How is it going to be sustainable? How is it going to make a difference to people that those organisations have identified as being amongst the most digitally excluded? So I think across the application, it's very much about telling that story. This is who we are as an organisation. These are the people that we work with and that we serve and support. This is how we've identified that those people are digitally excluded. And this is what we're going to do as a result of identifying that need to address that need and to tackle that need in a sustainable way. And so I don't want to say it doesn't matter who you're working with or where you're working or how many people you're working with, but those things are less important than telling that story of those people and your organisation and why you're best placed to make that difference, positive difference for those people to increase their digital inclusion, and then the outcomes that we will see as a result of that. But there aren't 10 points for the outcomes, 20 points for the kinds of people, 15 points. It's not really structured in that way as an application. I don't know if that helps, Vic, or if that just makes it less clear.
Cheers.
Did you want to say anything, Amy? Does that sound kind of like what?
Great, thank you. Nikita's asking if there is a priority age group.
No, there isn't a priority age group. 100% Digital Leeds do work more with adults, but this fund is open to all, and we'll be looking at each project on merit, as was just kind of discussed. So nobody is excluded.
Thanks, Lydia. And James is asking if you can shed a bit more light on the budget section of the application form. James, we might need you to be a bit more specific in your question about what you're asking in terms of the budget on the application form.
Thanks. Just apologies. I'm just looking at the application and that particular section that says budget. So it's asking what you have raised so far and what you are requesting for. So I'm just wondering if you have got, I mean, if you haven't got any money raised, would that be a barrier or something?
No, so this is in case you have a project that say the total cost of your project is £20,000, but you can only apply to a grant for us for £10,000 and you're seeking some other money from somewhere else. But if your project isn't more than £10,000, then it's not a disadvantage or a barrier. You just say that you've not raised anything else and that this grant kind of covers your project cost. I hope that helps, but if it doesn't, I'm happy to explain further after the call.
Yes, that actually helps. Thanks.
Great. Joe is asking how many grants we'll be awarding through the fund.
So it's 5 grants of £10,000.
Thank you very much. Very straightforward. Samantha asking, do you have a number of how many people we should be working with over the year? Some, as you say, will be with us for longer than others. So do we have an idea of how many people we expect people to be working with?
I'm going to say no. Much more important than numbers from our perspective is what Amy was talking about in terms of sustainability. So if you're an organisation, this as an example, if you're an organisation that at any one time has 25 people on your caseload or within your service that you're working, then and all those 25 people are digitally excluded, then we would be interested in not just how you're going to digitally include those 25 people that are on your caseload now, but the next 25 and the next 25, so that your provision is changed to the point where all of the people that come through your service who are digitally excluded have some means of becoming more digitally included. So it's not, from our perspective, it's not about how many people you're going to work with across the funded period necessarily. It's how are you going to ensure that all of the people that you work with, all of the people your organisation comes into contact who are digitally excluded, how do they have a route in to becoming more digitally included? So it's a combination, I think, of that breadth of numbers perhaps, but also the depth. So if you're only working with 10 people, but you're going to make a huge difference to those 10 people, and the next 10 and the next 10 and the next 10, we're really interested in that. If you're working with 1,000 people, and that might look very different, but again, the next 1,000 and the next 1,000. So it's about sustainability and evidence of impact and outcomes that you'll be achieving much more than it is about numbers, I think, from us.
Great, thanks, Jason. I think that also answers the next question as well. So we've got one more here. Can we buy apps for equipment to help our creatives move their work online and level the field for them?
Do you want me to take this one? I think it's hard to give straightforward yes/no answers, as we would need to read more about the kind of context of the proposal, and I guess understand more about what your everyday offer is with your creatives. So maybe this would be one for getting in touch with through the contact form, just to kind of, so that we can understand a bit more about that project, if that's okay.
I think, just without answering that question directly, I think you're right, Lydia. Just get in touch and have a chat. But I think I wouldn't say no to any specific idea just by reading it on the chat. I wouldn't go, oh no, we're not possibly interested in that. I'd be much more interested in what we were saying before. What's the issue that you've seen? What's the barrier that your people and your communities are facing? What is stopping them from becoming digitally included? How can you address and tackle that and help them to become more digitally included? And then what are the improved outcomes that you as an organisation, we as a city, are going to see as a result of that work and as a result of those people becoming more digitally included? I think if you can tell that story convincingly enough on the application to get the fund, then that's much, we'd be much more interested in having a conversation, I think, than saying, oh, that doesn't sound like a very good idea, just based on, a quick question in the chat.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, great. So we've got one more question here. Is there a better chance of securing the funding by applying for less than £10,000 but still being able to support our service users over 12 months? Lydia, are you right to pick that one up?
No, so they are fixed grants. I think that's because we recognise that £10,000 over a year for this sort of activity is probably maybe the right sort of amount. So there's no advantage to bidding for a lower amount, even if your project is the 1 year.
Thank you. And Samantha's asking, does it have to be a new project or idea, or can it be used to develop and increase capacity of existing IT classes?
It doesn't have to be a new idea, and we're hoping that these projects will build on kind of work that's already being, your everyday offer, and kind of integrating digital things in there. Although, and as Jason said, it wouldn't be a case of saying no here. It just depends what increase the capacity of our IT classes looks like in practice. So again, maybe that's one for a bit more of a detailed one-to-one discussion, I think.
Yeah, I think it's what Amy said earlier. If for example, and I'm making this up, Samantha, but if for example, the funding was going to be used so that you could double how often the classes run, so you could do them every Monday and Tuesday as well as Thursday and Friday, that will have a very limited lifespan for as long as you're paying the tutor out of the funding, and then it'll stop and it'll go back to how it was before. If it's what Amy was saying around train the trainer, and what you're doing actually is adding capacity so that the person delivering the IT classes is then working with other staff and volunteers across the organisation, so they can support the people in between the classes, or so that they can run some additional classes and so on and so forth. That might be much more sustainable. And when the money runs out, that other provision is going to carry on going. So yeah, it's what Lydia said. It could be either or both, or something completely different, just based on that quick question in the chat, but happy to talk. Yeah.
Thanks very much. So yeah, we've covered all of the questions in the chat, but as has been mentioned many times, if you do leave with a question, there's either contact Leeds Community Foundation if it's a processy question, or contact through the contact page to get in touch with 100% Digital Leeds.
And sorry, on to James' last point, if that's around a phone number for 100% Digital, short answer is no. But if you do get in touch with us through the website, we have a number of people on our team that we would link you up with, and they might then be able to they'll get in touch with you by email, essentially, and they might be able to chat on the phone. They'll meet for a coffee, if you like, however you want to work it. But yeah, we can do that. But initially, it's all just trying to get everyone through the same portal, if you like, on our website, and then we'll put
okay. Okay, thanks for that.
Brilliant. I think that brings us to the end then. If you do have any questions afterwards, or something comes to you, obviously you can get in touch with us, and we will share the slides from today's session, and a video of this event will also be available next week. And we'll share that around as well. But thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your time this morning. I hope it's been useful.